And we are back with part 4 of the Farmers Market Finder tutorial. In this video we're going to work on the search pop-up menu class, and basically what we're going to do here is you can see back here we're going to put in this little toolbar and this search button, and when you click that, this pop-up will show up and you'll be able to type in an address. And if I type in like Atlanta, Georgia, it'll take the map over to Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this started. I'm going to start by putting in the toolbar up there. To do that, I'm going to go over to my main.kv file, and right now I just have the farmer's map view as my only and root widget. Instead, I'm going to throw in a box layout and make the farmer's map view a child of the box layout. And I want the box layout to be vertically oriented, so I'll set the orientation to vertical. And now I'm going to type MD toolbar, and the title for my MD toolbar will be Farmers Market Finder. Okay, and then write action items. This is where I'm going to put that little search button. I have to put in a double list right here, and in here I'll say magnify. This is the name of the icon. I'm going to use the magnify icon. And then also what should happen when I click on the icon, you need to write a lambda function, and the lambda function I'll say app.search menu, which I have not defined yet, app.search menu.open. So this search menu is going to be the search pop-up menu class. Okay, so when I click on the button, it should open up the menu. And then also I want to change the background color of the toolbar. So I'll say md_bg_color, and I'll just put that as app.theme cls.primary color. Okay, so now let me run this app, and let's see if I get my toolbar showing up, which I do. Perfect. And when I click this, I should get an error. Boom, it broke. That's because it doesn't know what the heck search menu is in this app.search menu line, right? Okay, let's go over to main.py. Here I am in my app, and I'll create a new variable called search menu, which is none at the start. And then on start, I want to instantiate my search pop-up menu. To do that, I can say self.search menu is, and then this is a new search pop-up menu. This class is not defined yet. That's what we're doing in this video. I'm going to put it in a file called search pop-up menu. So preemptively, I'll import it. So from search pop-up menu, import search pop-up menu. Okay, let's go make this file in this class. So over here, I'm going to create a new file, Python file called search pop-up menu. Remember, that's matching this import. Okay, sure, I'll add it to Git. And now I'll define my new class, search pop-up menu. And this is actually going to inherit from the KivyMD's MD input dialog class. So let me import that first. From KivyMD.uix.dialog, import MD input dialog. Okay, and I'm going to inherit from that. And for now, I'll just say pass. Actually, maybe I'll write a size hint. So when I initialize this guy, call super.init. All right, and now let me set the size hint to be, I'll take up 90% of the width of the screen, so 0.9, and I'll take up maybe 30% of the height of the screen. Okay, let's run this again. And now that I've created my search pop-up menu class, I should be able to click here, and boom, you can see that, oops, did that size hint not work? Oh, I wrote self.size, self.size hint. Okay, that'll be fixed next time we run it. But you can see I've got my pop-up menu. Now what I need to do is change the text up here in the title, and then the text down here, and then also make it so when I click that, this little button, it does something. Right now it doesn't do anything. Okay, so to change the title, up here I'll say title is, and I'll say search by address. And then to change the button over here, this label, I can change the text button OK field. And I'll call this search. All right, let's run this. and see what we get. There we go. Search by address, search. Okay, it works. I press it, nothing happens. Now, let's define what happens when I click that button, okay? So I'll say self.events callback, and then I pass the name of a function that I want to run whenever I click the text button. Okay. So I'll say self.callback. Now this function is not defined yet, so I need to define callback, and it passes me a couple arguments that I don't really care about. What I care about is getting the text that the person typed in, right? To do that, I'll say address is self.textField.text. Okay, self.text field refers to the actual text field right here, and then saying self.textField.text gets me the text in there. So I'll say print address. Now when I run this, I should be able to see when I click the search button. I'll say foobar search, and you can see foobar is popped up down here. So I've got the address that they've searched. Now what I need to do is use that address and actually geocode it. Okay, geocoding means basically give it an address, go send it to a geocoding service, and get back the latitude and longitude of that address. Okay, to do that, I'm going to use something called here, H-E-R-E. I'll type in here geocoder API. This is a free service that you can use. Well, it's paid, but there's a freemium tier. Okay, so down here, here developer, you can click here. Okay, you're going to need to sign up if you don't have an account. So go ahead and sign up, however that works. And then when you do have an account, click login. And I'll log in here to my account so we can see what's going on. And the important thing here is you're going to create a project. So you're going to click this big button, select a plan for a new project. All right. And it'll take you to a couple different options. This is the one you want. Obviously, you do not want to be paying this much money for this little service for an app that you're just screwing around with. So click this freemium, click sign up. For me, I can't do it because I already have one, and it only lets you build one project with freemium. Okay, so sign up for that freemium, and then you should be able to go down here and see your project. So I'll click here, and the important thing is your 2 credentials for REST. Okay, so down here it's going to tell you your app ID, okay, and down here an app code. This is what we're going to use to actually sort of authenticate our request to this here service before we can actually get data back. Okay, so make note of this app ID and app code because we're going to use it in this video. Okay, now that we've got that, let's go over to the documentation. This is how we geocode just an address. Okay, this is really good documentation. We want to use the app code and app ID, so click this one right here, and this gives you an example of the URL that you would query. So I'm just going to copy this URL, and you can see in here we've got sort of this URL, whatever, search text. Okay, so after the after the question mark, this is where we're passing data to the URL. Search text, this is going to be the address that the user typed in. Okay, and then it's got let's see here. Come on, let me scroll. You can see app ID is passed, so app ID equals something, and then app code equals something. That's where we're going to put the app ID and app code that I was just talking about. And then after you do that, you should get a response that looks like this in this JSON format, and what we want eventually is the latitude and longitude of the response. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually get this URL inside of our app. Looking back at my little documentation here, the callback function should call geocode get lat lon. Okay, so I'm going to make that function def geocode get lat lon, something like that, and this will take an address. Okay, the URL that we actually want to ping is, I'll paste this whole thing. The app code, all right, I need to switch out with my own app code. So I'll put a %s after app code equals, and then app ID, same thing. I'll put a %s. This gen equals 9, I don't really need. And then this whole thing, the search text, is the address, so I'll put one more %s. Okay, so now I've got my URL. I need to put in the actual strings for the address. So I'll say %address, %app ID, and then oh whoops, I don't need all those percents. App ID and app code. Alright, here I'm going to say app ID is, and then whatever your app ID is. And then app code is whatever your app code is. Okay. And the one last thing we need to do here is say address is, and if you don't encode your address properly, you're going to get some errors. Like if you try to search an address that's got a space in it, that's going to cause problems. So what we need to do is import, so from URL lib, import parse. Okay, so I'll say address is parse.quote address. This just makes sure that any problematic characters like a space or like quotes or any weird sort of characters like that get properly encoded and can get passed over this HTTP service. Okay, that's all good. Now, I need one more import. We're going to use the Kivy URL request. Okay, URL request basically lets us do a GET request over HTTP or a post or a patch or whatever, but it's asynchronous, and that's really nice. So let's say from kivy.network.url request import URL request. Okay, now after the URL line, I'll just say URL request URL, and then on success. So the way that the asynchronous URL request works is it'll by default do a GET request to this URL, and then when it's finished, it'll call whatever function you pass to the onSuccess parameter. So I'll say self.success. And then you can also work with onFailure. I'll write a new function called self.failure, and onError. I'll say self.error. These are important to specify, the onFailure and onError, because you might not always get successes, or at least while you're debugging, making your app work for the first time. So you want to make sure that you've got error and failure functions so you can see what you're doing wrong. Okay, so let me create this success function that I've talked about up here. By default, the onSuccess, onFailure, onError gets passed both the URL request, so basically this object, and also the result. Okay, so I'm going to print result and maybe also print success. Okay, I'll copy paste this for errors and failures. Error and failure. So you can be sure that if you screw something up, you'll know. All right, now app ID and app code. I'm going to put these in a little file of my own and actually read them in, so I don't have to share them over the video. So all that I've done is I've replaced app ID equals whatever my app ID was, which you might be doing, with just reading a file, which is appid.txt. So I created this appid.txt file, which has my app ID in there. Same with the app code, and I'm just reading whatever's in that file. Okay, so that's just to keep my stuff a little bit more personal. Now I can run this, and hopefully I'll be able to see the success after I search for a URL. So I'll write something like Atlanta, Georgia, and hit search. All right, let's go back over here. Oh, I didn't call the geocode getLatLong function yet. So it printed the address, but it didn't actually do anything. So I'll say self.geocode getLatLong, and I'll pass address. And I'll delete this line. Okay, let's try one more time. Hit the search button. Atlanta, Georgia. Boom. And you can see success. So it basically sent a GET request to this URL, and it passed in all of our data, the address, app ID, and app code right here, just in the URL itself. and it said if it was successful, call the success function, and it was, so it printed success and then it printed the result. Here is the important part. You can see that the result is this big JSON object. Okay, it says response, meta info, timestamp, blah blah blah, view. Now you'll notice, if you were paying attention earlier, that's exactly in the documentation, this response. Okay, so again, what we're looking for is all the way down here, we want this latitude and longitude. So we're going to have to do a little bit of crawling through this JSON object. We'll have to go through response and then view, and then down here to location, whatever, to get this latitude and longitude. So to do that, I will say latitude is result, and then, okay, looking at the tree, the structure here, response, so I want response there, and then next is view inside of my response, so I'll say view, okay, and now view is a list, and I just want the first element of that list because I want the stuff inside of here, so view 0, and now I'm inside this bracket, so I'll go down here, I want result, okay, so result, again this is kind of long, but we need to get this data out. Again, this is another list, I want the first element of this list, so result 0. Now I'm in here, and I want the location, and let's see, display position or navigation position. I'll just grab this navigation position. So let me grab this navigation position. Is that what it was called? Yep, navigation position. All right, now I'm inside of here, and this again is a list, so I need to take the 0th, or the first element of that list, and now I can get the latitude. Okay, so we finally got to it, latitude, and longitude is going to be almost the exact same, so I'll say longitude is that, but change in here, this goes to longitude because it's at the exact same spot, just changing the name longitude. Okay, let's run this after printing latitude and longitude, and let's see if I get those values out. I'll search over here, write Atlanta, Georgia, search. Oops, I got an error. Navigation position, it didn't find it. Oh, it looks like I forgot to put in this location. Yeah, I believe that's right. Okay, so location comes before this. So location, again, this takes some tinkering, at least at first, because it's kind of hard to read that tree if you ask me. Okay, let's try this one more time. And I'll go back over here, Atlanta, Georgia, do a search, and, oh, okay, I got it. You can see that I printed out the latitude and longitude for Atlanta, Georgia. Let's go make sure that's right. If I just Google Atlanta, Georgia, lat-lon, see what I get. 33.7 and 84.3 west. 33.7, 84.3 west. Okay, looks like I've done all this correctly. My geocoding service is up. The last thing to do, now that we have the latitude and longitude, is of course to center our map on that latitude and longitude. That's what we want to do this whole time. To do that, we're going to need a reference to our farmer's map view. So let me give this an ID. I'll just call it map view. And now, over here in my search pop-up menu, I can say I need to import the app. So from kivy.app, import app. So I'm going to get a reference to my app by using the app.getRunningApp function. And now I can say map view is app.root. Remember, app.root refers to the root widget of my app, which is the box layout. And then I'll say .ids.mapView. So I'm getting, I'm looking in my root widget and saying anything in here that has the ID of map view, that's what I'm trying to get to. So there you go, I've got my reference to my map view. And then I can just say mapView.center on. This is a built-in function of the map view, and I'll pass it the latitude and the longitude, and that should be all that I have to do. I'll run this one more time. Let's see, I'm in Atlanta right now, so let me go over to, like, I don't know, somewhere in Louisiana, I guess. I'll search, and you can see my map has changed. I'm over here, who knows where exactly. It doesn't look like there are any farmers markets though. If I go to, let's say, St. Paul, Minnesota, let's try this. You can see we got tons of markets over here. Click a market. From the last video, you can see that we've got all this data in here. This one hardly has any data in it, actually. How about this one? All no's. Either way, you can see that our app is pretty much working. The search feature is great. We've got the geocoding service in there. I think this is pretty much the app. Maybe a couple little tweaks to make this empty text field a little bit nicer, and maybe change the background color of this guy to match that of the markers. But maybe I'll just make a really short video on that. And after this, we're going to deploy both to iOS and Android, so watch for those videos. All right, thanks for watching.